There's Sarah.
Hi, Maria. How's it going?
Well, it's going great, but I can't get my son on here with MOSH. I saw you trying to get on there with him, but
Yeah.
You know how these young tech people are. I'm so glad that older people got on here first. We could figure it out because we've helped our brains. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
It
I had
works.
to organize this.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I'm so thrilled that MOSH is on here and my great pal, Dr. Sara Gottfried, who's a New York Times bestselling author. She's a great friend of MOSH, a great friend of mine. I've done pieces on her on the Today Show, everything she's written, right? And she's a great functional medicine doctor to guide us on our brain health. This is Brain Awareness Month. MOSH is a brain fuel product. Patrick, I want you to ask Dr. Gottfried whatever it is that you're interested in about your brain. That's why she's here.
Oh my God. Well,
with your
my first thing I would say is I wish you could be here to help us with this Instagram live. We could use your help on that. But no, I want to just introduce everyone. I mean, I guess you just did a great job of introducing Dr. Sara Gottfried, yourself, and just from our side, from the MOSH account, you know, I'm sure you guys know a little bit about us, but our names are MOSH, which stands for my mom's initials, Maria Owing Shriver Health, and we are here to educate you guys about brain health. This is Brain Health Awareness Month. We are trying to utilize our platform to talk with different individuals that are experts when it comes to brain health, towards diets, toward so many different other aspects about how we can improve our brains and our bodies. And so this week we are pleased to talk with Dr. Sara Gottfried. And if you have any questions, you can just kind of message them on here and we'll ask them for you guys, because that's what we want to do. We want to incorporate you guys and the community and our followers and ultimately help you. So we've got a couple questions about what we've wanted to talk about. But if you have other ones, please let us know. So let's start. I mean, you know, MOSH is a food company at its heart. You know, we have our quote unquote brain bars, and you're an expert in this field. So I think one of the questions that a lot of people always ask us, and we're always curious, is kind of, you know, how much does food actually impact our brain?
Food is enormous. I believe that food is the most important lever when it comes to brain health. And yet it tends to be ignored by most mainstream physicians. And I say that with so much love and respect because I went through mainstream training. But I can tell you at Harvard Medical School, I got 30 minutes on nutrition. Wow. So food is essential. And what I really believe when it comes to brain health is that we've got to manage, especially the carbohydrates, we've got to manage the sugar. We've got to make sure that we're eating the kind of foods that really feed the microbiome, the gut, keep the gut healthy, because the gut talks to the brain. That's such an essential part here because brain health does not exist in isolation. It exists in this conversation with your gut. And knowing about the gut-brain axis, understanding how important food is to brain health is really essential.
So, Sarah, you've talked a lot about kind of ketogenic diets for women. And like Patrick is in his 20s, right? I'm in my 60s. I think you're in your 40s. Should we all be eating the same thing for our brain health?
No, what you need changes. So, Patrick, let's start with you. So how much do you exercise?
I would say almost, I mean, every day I do something that's active. Today I worked out maybe for an hour and a half. Other days, on off days, maybe just a little bit of a walk or a stroll. And then during the week, I try to work out pretty hard for an hour and a half every day.
Yeah. So you're in your 20s. When you exercise that much, you need more carbohydrates.
Right.
So a ketogenic diet for someone in their 20s, unless you've got some sort of metabolic health issue that you're trying to address, I don't think it's a good fit. I think it's important for you to get the healthy carbs that really feed your gut and feed your brain by association. And that means more carbs. So we know, for instance, that for guys in their 20s, if you're on a ketogenic diet, generally your performance in the gym or even for pro athletes is not going to be as good. So for brain health, you need more carbs than you might when you're 50 or 60.
Right. And I think one of the things we talk about is carbs are great. They're a form of how your body utilizes it for energy. We're big believers, my mother and I, and from what we have learned about not having added sugars and refined sugars. You know, our MOSH bars don't have any cane sugar, doesn't have any forms of added, refined sugars. And so I'm curious to see what your take is on refined sugars and sugar as a whole, because I know you just talked about that for a second.
Yeah, it's essential. So what I really believe is that we should be eating, Maria, you might want to cover your ears for this part. I think we should be eating about a pound of vegetables a day. And what we know is that sugar is the greatest culprit. So refined carbohydrates, getting too much sugar, those feed what I think of as the Homer Simpson type of bacteria in your gut, the ones that cause problems with your brain, cause problems with your metabolism.
Right.
And so you really want to avoid added sugar. You want to avoid or limit refined carbohydrates. Generally in your 20s, you can get away with a little bit more. But across the board, I like for net carbs to be on the lower side. That's
Right.
total carbs, less fiber. And for your bars, for instance, I think the net carbs are somewhere around 2 grams, which
Right.
I think is just right. That's what we want.
Dr. Gottfried has been really helpful to me, or she has really tried to be super helpful to me, getting me off carbohydrates. Certainly people of my generation did not grow up hearing keto, did not grow up with this conversation about eliminating carbs, right? And so I think that I'd like to come back to what do you think women in particular, or men at my age, how can they keep their brain sharp? How can they keep themselves independent? Because that's such a big issue for people in their 50s and 60s. Every time I talk to someone, they're like, I can't find my glasses. And they come say to me, do I have Alzheimer's, you know?
Right. Yeah, well, the challenge is there's not one size fits all. So the work that I do, I'm the director of precision medicine at Thomas Jefferson University. And so I focus on, okay, how do we individualize diet? How do we make the best diet to help you with brain health? And what we know as you get older, so this starts especially for women over the age of 40, is that your brain and the way that it uses glucose starts to change. So this is the work that you've funded in part, Maria, with Lisa Mosconi. She's shown that 80% of women have this slowdown of their metabolism, not just in their whole body with the bathroom scale climbing or with more fat deposits at the waist, but also with how the brain, the neurons, the nerve cells are using glucose. So that's super important. And there's a few different types of diets that have been studied in terms of what's the best fit for a population, especially women over 40. We know that the Mediterranean diet is the most proven. Ketogenic diet also has a lot of support, not quite as much as the Mediterranean diet. But I think what matters is also what's going on with your glucose.
Yeah.
So the blood glucose that you get, kind of as part of a standard test that you get when you see your doctor, if you're someone who has problems with glucose, and I did starting in my 30s, that's when you want to use some of these other therapeutic diets, like the ketogenic diet, not for long term, but more short term, so that your body is using glucose the way that it's supposed to.
Somebody just asked a question here, Sarah, what can I do to better my cognitive function? What should I eat to better my cognitive function?
Yeah, so the pillars that I look at in terms of improving cognitive function are to really focus first on your plate with vegetables. So vegetables, at least 5 different colors a day. So we're talking about dark green leafies, making a big salad, using radishes, cucumbers. I love beets because they're methyl donors, something that helps you with detoxification. I love the cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli. So getting vegetables Welcome back, Patrick.
I'm
We're happy
not
you're with us again.
I'm not sure what happened, but
Go eat a MOSH bar, Patrick. Go eat a
oh
MOSH bar.
gosh.
We're holding down the fort. Dr. Gottfried is talking. We're answering a question somebody was asking, what do I eat to better cognitive function?
Yes, I heard. Yep.
A lot of questions on here, Sarah, also about are some of these supplements that I see advertised on TV, do they really fix your memory? I get asked that a lot.
Yeah, it's a good question. My general take is you can't out supplement a bad diet. So you have to start with a diet that's really healthy. So we were talking about the role of vegetables. That's the primary thing on your plate, like a big salad. Then you add some lean protein. I'm a big fan of fish. So healthy wild caught fish because it's rich in omega-3s, which are really good for brain health. But if you're a meat eater, if you like to eat protein from animals, that could be pastured chicken, pastured eggs, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. All of those things I would say are healthy for your blood sugar, and that means they're also healthy for your brain. So regarding supplements, there's some supplements that have been shown to help with cognitive improvement, such as omega-3s, like taking that as a supplement, such as I like MCT oil. There's some adaptogens that I think are helpful, like ashwagandha. I like phosphatidylserine. But the point is, you gotta start first with your food. Start first with your plate, with your grocery shopping. Get that dialed in, and then consider the supplements.
So I think that I'm just trying to look at what some of the other people that are on here watching have asked, and I've seen actually a few people have asked. I think in regards to our conversation about sugar and refined sugars and whatnot, is there a specific sweetener that you do like to use? I think someone had mentioned honey or maple syrup or agave or newer versions, monk fruits, different fruit extracts, etc. Is there one that you enjoy using or you find more beneficial?
Yeah, great question. So my answer to that is you want to eat food that ideally is sweetened without sugar. In terms of sugar substitutes, the ones that don't jack up your blood sugar are the ones that I'm the most interested in. So I like allulose. I tolerate it really well. I like erythritol. I like monk fruit. In about 10% of patients who take stevia, they have a blood sugar drop. The issue with agave and with honey and maple syrup is that for some of us, that can really jack up our blood sugar.
Right.
And the brain doesn't like that. The brain doesn't like spikiness when it comes to glucose. And it also just zaps you of energy. So you don't want that.
Got it. That's interesting.
Yeah. So Patrick, there's lots of other questions, a lot here about how is monk fruit, people from Israel saying they use a lot of agave in Israel. And I guess, the other big thing, I think that when I started in the brain space, every doctor I spoke to, and I said, if I could tell people to do one or two things, what would it be? And every doctor said, encourage them to exercise, move to get the blood into the brain, right? So even if you've never exercised, you can start walking today. Sitting, the Western lifestyle is really detrimental. Is it not?
I'm going to stand then. I'm going to stand.
What?
I'm going to stand for the rest of this conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I'm
but-
standing. I'm at my treadmill desk.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Right? So, I'm sitting. I'm sitting on my butt. But isn't that a big issue? Like if someone here hasn't really prioritized their brain health at all, what are 3 things that they should do starting today, regardless of age?
Yeah, so diet's number 1, exercise is number 2. So let's talk about exercise for a moment. One of my favorite things to do with patients who are not exercising is to have them start walking after dinner. So there's been studies looking at people who walk, even if it's just for 15 to 30 minutes after their biggest meal of the day, which tends to be dinner. That has such a benefit when it comes to your glucose and then by extension, your brain. So I'm a big fan of exercise. I saw a patient yesterday who has the kind of genetics that gives her a lot of trouble with brain health. She's got the kind of genetics that makes her at great risk for diabetes, but she uses exercise to work around her genetics. And that's what we're looking for. The simple answer is food, exercise. And then the third thing I would say is about your mind. So less about your brain, but when it comes to your mind, I think being in a continuous learning process, having a sense of purpose and meaning in your life, having a sense, if you're open to it, of spirituality or a religious connection, believing in something kind of outside of yourself, I think those are essential for brain health.
So 3 takeaways there. I mean, exercise, walking, you can do anything, getting up, standing, moving around, food, food, food. If you're kind of dragging. One thing I learned from Patrick, Sara, is also dehydration. A lot of the times I find like I have a headache or I'm slugging, and it turned out to be actually, there you go, I'm dehydrated. I also never grew up with that message. So what about dehydration and the brain? And then I want to talk about sleep.
Yeah, hydration is so essential. What I do every morning, I've got a morning ritual where I meditate. Before I meditate, I drink 2 huge glasses of water, so about 1 liter of water, because most of us, when we sleep at night, we get somewhat dehydrated. And if you wait until you're thirsty, it's too late. You really have to be hydrating throughout the day. I usually add a little bit of fresh lemon just to get some minerals and electrolytes. So I'm a huge fan of hydration. And I think most of us are not getting enough.
So, okay, exercise, food, right? Dehydration, drinking water, sleeping. This is a really important thing, right? About while you sleep, it's a chance for your brain to clear out, for lack of a better word, trash, right? That's kind of what meditation does. So if you could start today by even walking after you eat dinner, if you could make sure you drink a lot of water, if you could make sure you eat your MOSH bars and things that are low sugar, and also prioritize your sleep, which prioritizes your brain, correct?
Exactly right. I would say sleep is as close to a panacea as we have when it comes to brain health, because it's so good for your metabolism. It's so good for the way that you utilize glucose. If you just have one bad night of sleep, that jacks up your insulin the next day. It makes your glucose higher. It makes your stress hormones like cortisol higher. So the more that we can really focus on getting the sleep that we need by whatever means possible, for most of us, it's going to bed earlier than we usually do. I think sleep is so essential. It's one of the easiest hacks to work with. And if sleep is not something that you do a great job with, I would really encourage our listeners to consider a wearable, something like, a ring or a watch, so that you're tracking your sleep, because what you measure improves. Patrick, are you a wearable guy?
Yes, I've got my Apple Watch. I wear my Whoop band that helps track my sleep. I've got the Aura. I'm kind of a fanatic about all this stuff. I track kind of everything of sleep, to my stress scores, to my readiness for working out. I like all that kind of stuff. But one thing I haven't tested is kind of really what foods affect me. I do it more off of what I feel, but just going based off of something, speaking of kind of how you feel, I'm getting a lot of questions here about caffeine and about coffee specifically. And I love my coffee. I have my coffee every morning after I have some water, of course. But I think some people on here would like to know, from what I gather, is kind of caffeine tolerant, and I think caffeine and coffee have been really proven beneficial for the brain, but I assume that's in, a cup a day or something, not, a cup every other hour.
That's right. So Maria and I have talked a lot about caffeine over the years, because she always says, don't take away my coffee. Like,
yeah,
leave me my
too.
coffee. Yeah. So the deal with coffee is that some of it, yes, exactly. Some of it relates to your genetics. So I would assume, with what I know about Maria and what I am hearing about you, Patrick, that you have the kind of genetics that gets all of the benefits from caffeine, including brain benefits. So we know that people who metabolize caffeine fast, they're the ones who get all of the antioxidant benefits. So it helps with kind of the resting that occurs in the body and the brain as you get older. They get all of the longevity benefits, so living longer with a healthy brain. And then it's people like me who are slow metabolizers of caffeine, we're the ones who get all of the problems. We get the sudden cardiac death. We get the, the greater risk of cardiovascular disease. And it's part of the reason why you see some studies that say caffeine is good, and then you see other studies that say it's not good. It relates to the genetics. And about half the population is a fast metabolizer. The other half is a slow.
I think one thing that's been so great about Sara's work is she talks a lot about, personalized medicine, knowing your body, knowing your genes, because if you're not informed, if you're not aware of what makes you feel good, what doesn't make you feel good, you can't really help yourself. So I think a lot of her work has been about talking about what's good for you. So what might be good for me, that really strong coffee in the morning, might not be good, obviously, for Sara, right? Or it definitely is probably not good for Patrick, something that he's drinking a lot of coffee, which would not be good for me. I'd bounce off of the walls. He kind of bounces, but I'm trying to meditate and come down. So it's different, right? I think it's really important. And just finally, Sara's written a lot of books about particularly designed for women and talking about hormones. There's so many women who find themselves who are in their 40s. They're stressed out raising children, working, taking care of aging parents, and they're often given SSRIs because they're told they're depressed. And you talk a lot and have written a lot about hormones. Can you just, if somebody's feeling sluggish, if they're feeling depressed, and they're doing everything you're saying, they're prioritizing their sleep, they're eating properly, they're drinking a lot of water, what should they be talking to their doctor about when it comes to kind of their overall depression and hormones?
Well, I would say first, request a test. So find out where you are with your hormones. And this is true across the board. So I have a lot of patients who are men in their 20s. And we know that if testosterone is low, that can be associated with mood issues, both depression and anxiety. But if we're speaking directly to women over the age of 35, what tends to happen is that your ovaries just don't make as much estrogen and progesterone as you used to. And so a lot of women notice that, sometimes at 37, sometimes at 47. But what happens is that the way that your glucose is used in the brain is regulated by estrogen. It's regulated by estrogen. So as the female body starts to make less estrogen, right around age 43, you notice it. That's where you notice the slowdown in terms of cognitive function, can't multitask the way that you used to be able to. You may walk into a room and you don't know why, can't remember the word on the tip of your tongue. So that's where you want to ask your doctor for some hormone testing and then see if you're a candidate for hormone therapy.
I like what you said about men. I think that's really the kind of having low testosterone increases their anxiety and makes their mood volatile.
That's right. So yeah, testosterone has such an important role. A lot of people think of it in terms of sex drive or in terms of muscle mass, but it's got this key role when it comes to mood for both men and women. And testosterone is the most abundant hormone in both men and women. So I would really recommend that people start with hormone testing. And if your doc pushes back and says, oh no, we don't test hormones, they change too much, then I would say get a new doctor because we know that it's really helpful to test these levels and to correlate them with the symptoms that you're having.
See, Patrick, I don't think any guys your age go into their doctor. Probably they don't even go to the doctor, but they probably don't go into the doctor and ask for their hormones to be tested, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you I take care of a MBA team. And so we track their testosterone very carefully. We look at their estrogen levels because
I've gotten mine tested because I'm, like I said before, I'm a fanatic about all these different things and what can impact, my testosterone or whatnot. But if you're talking about the average, American, you're probably correct. I don't think they would.
So if you have a guy in your life, if you have a son, a brother, I think that's really important. I remember taking your brother to the doctor and he said, no guy comes in unless he's forced by either his mother or his wife. And I think that's a whole new space, right? Trying to get men to think about men's health. I'm always talking about trying to focus on women's health, but MOSH bars are for everybody, right? And so we're trying to have a conversation that includes everybody, because men need to be focused on their health starting in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, because their health changes just like a woman's changes by the decade, right, Sara?
It does. It's more subtle, the change in men. So testosterone declines more slowly than estrogen declines in women. So for women, it's a much more precipitous change. And
Yeah,
that's why we tend to have so many more, distinct symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, memory issues, mood changes.
right. So Patrick, do you have any other questions for
Well,
Sara?
no, I know we were supposed to be done 12:30, but we ran a little bit late, so I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Thank you so much. We really
Everybody's
appreciate it.
asking, where do you get your MOSH bars on here? You get them at moshlife.com.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can buy Sara's books on Amazon. We always put her up in the Sunday paper, but she has wonderful books that you can just go on there and buy, and they really do, kind of change. She has the Hormone Reset Diet. She has a book called Women, Food, and Hormones. She has a book called The Hormone Cure. She has a book called Younger. And she has her own Instagram account where she kind of tracks herself with all kinds of weird stuff.
Just like your son, apparently.
Yeah, just like my son. That's true. Just
Yes,
like
I do.
yes, Mosh.
But yes, we wanted to thank you so much. I can see from the comments, so many people are loving all the information. We got into a bunch of different topics. We left people with takeaways of what they can do and start today to improve their brain health. And like my mom said, if you want to check out our MOSH page, you can just click our profile or come to MOSH or to our website. We have our brain bars that are protein bars with no added sugar and a bunch of different vitamins and healthy nutrients for the brain. And we raise money for the women's Alzheimer's movement. But every week we are doing these types of conversations during Brain Health Awareness Month. We're really fortunate to know someone like Dr. Sara Gottfried and be able to kind of tap into their brains and allow them to give us all this information and nutrient dense takeaways and things that we can do to improve our brain. So come back.
Let me just jump in here. Gottfried, several people saying, what's Sara's last name? It's Dr. Sara Gottfried. Where can you find her books? You can find them on Amazon. We're going to put this interview up in the MOSH Pit, is a newsletter that comes from MOSH twice a month, so you can hear it again and connect with her, and we'll reiterate where you can find her books. And I've said her last name several times, but you need a MOSH bar if you haven't gotten her name. Dr. Gottfried, you get to eat your MOSH bar so you can remember her name. But Sara, thank you so much for all the great work you've done for helping me personally and helping us at MOSH, and really kind of helping so many people to focus on their brain. This is an exploding space, which I'm thrilled about. When I started in this space, nobody talked about their brain. And now, as Patrick and I can attest, everybody's like, wow, I want to get into the brain healthy space. And so that means people are thinking about how they think and what works for them. And I think it's really important, and so grateful to have had this conversation.
Thank you. So happy to be with both of you.
Thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Thank you all for joining. And if you don't follow MOSH Life, please go over to MOSH Life. Patrick is on MOSH Life. If you don't follow Sara, go follow Sara. She's really terrific, and she herself does lots of interesting things. And I think you're following me because you're here, but I hope you follow the Sunday paper too. We're doing all kinds of great stuff in the women's Alzheimer's movement, which funds great research into women's brains, trying to understand why women are 2/3 of those who get Alzheimer's. So it's all full circle. It's all working together. We're all trying to move our brains forward in every way that we can. So thank you so much. Great job, Patrick.
All right, over and out.
And watch Patrick in the staircase. He's on the staircase. We forgot to talk. Sara, are you watching Patrick on the staircase?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, my God, you have to watch. It's on HBO Plus.
Oh, the show.
The show.
Yes.
The staircase. I thought you were talking about a fitness thing he was doing.
Oh,
okay.
no.
The staircase.
Patrick is the actor in the staircase, and
I'll
he's
watch
so
it tonight.
good.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate
He's so
that.
good. He's so good, and Colin Firth is so good, and such a good story. And I want to know whether you think the owl did it, he did it, who did it, but I know Patrick didn't do it. So
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.